Your credit looks good, your income looks good. Great. Give us $500. Prove that you're serious. Don't waste our realtor's time. Don't waste our time. Spend $500 right now, and you can start looking for a house. Depends on obviously what area. We hook them up with the realtor. We tell the realtor, look, they're approved for this. And then we say, well, these are the type of houses in this area that we want to buy. So this is what we want you to direct them to. And then we start collecting documents. It's just like the investor going to get a mortgage. You have to have NOAs, job letters. We check with the former landlords. We check with everybody just to ensure that they are employed, that, they do have, they hold back taxes, because we all know that Canada CRA comes first.
Yep.
When they owe money. We check with the credit, obviously, if they defaulted on a CMHC mortgage. There's no way they're ever going to get a CMHC mortgage again, or very unlikely. So it creates a different scenario. We delve into everything at that point.
So that's a pretty in-depth review. Now, they don't necessarily qualify for a mortgage right now, correct?
That's correct. If they qualified for a mortgage, obviously we would just say, you qualify for a mortgage right now. This is what we can do for you.
So you really analyze their credit, their finances. They've got a price range. Do you take them out to look for a house, or do they just go, on an MLS, or they tag with a realtor?
We provide them with a realtor to work with. So we have different realtors in different areas that we've worked with that understand the lease loan process that really aren't going to. The worst thing that can happen is we give them to a realtor and say, listen, this guy's trying to qualify 20 times for a mortgage, but, here's the lease loan thing. Okay, perfect. They understand the lease loan. They've done deals with us before. If we have a realtor who hasn't, we've had realtors screw up the deals for us, saying, oh, well, yeah, my mortgage broker can get you a mortgage. And then they come back 3 months later and say, well, that wasn't possible. And, they want to do it again.
Right. So when they find a house in the price range that you've given them guidance for, what happens then?
We put in an offer. If we have an investor lined up already for certain areas, we do. We put it right into our investor's name, and we get two conditions. One is financing, the other is inspection. And we let the tenant negotiate their price, basically, because the way our system works is we derive all our numbers from the purchase price. When we derive the monthly rent from the purchase price, the buyout, their down payment. So the lower they can get it, if they want to go in and lowball the person, we don't care. It depends on how much they like that house. As long as we're not buying it over market value, as long as we're buying for market value, then it makes sense for us to do the deal.
Okay. So they're negotiating, but just briefly, what sort of due diligence do you do to make sure the market value is appropriate?
Well, we get an appraisal done, or we do, we're going to use a CMHC insured mortgage. We get a market evaluation from the realtor. And obviously, after we've done that and we've determined, yes, it is a fair price for it, because we've walked from deals that have been overpriced. They wouldn't come down on their price. And in this market, I think some of the sellers are just being unrealistic with some of their prices.
I hear you there.
After that, we've determined the price is great. So we get the tenant to get a home inspection on the property as well.
So how long would that take? They see a house they love, the tenant starts doing the negotiating. Are we talking days or weeks before everything folds up, or how does that typically work?
We get a 10-day, typically we get 10 days conditions for financing and home inspection. We hopefully have them get the home inspection within the first 5 days. If we don't have an investor lined up already, we put an investor in, and typically within the first 3 to 4 days.
So investors must love you, because you're basically providing them with the turnkey, positive cash flow solution every month.
Well, as I tell people when I meet them generally, and at first, and they want to do rent to own with us, or at least own with us, I say it's kind of like crack, because you're using our time and expertise to go and find these properties and to buy these properties. And all you have to do is get qualified for the mortgage and put the down payment in. And we give you 24, 36 post-dated checks. All you have to do is cash them and make sure the tenant is keeping up with the credit improvement.
I think you might be earning a new title beyond the versatile investor.
Well, what's that?
The crack house dealer.
House dealer.
It sounds like an absolutely amazing system. And typically, how long do the lease-to-owns, the tenants, stay in there?
Most of our lease-to-owns are 1 to 3 years. If we don't think we can get them qualified in 3 years, then typically it's not a win-win for anybody. It actually hurts the tenants, put them into a scenario, and it's setting the investor up for failure. They're probably not going to buy that property yet.
So in that scenario, though, Mark, if in say a 2-year time period, a tenant doesn't improve their credit and they default, what typically happens in that sort of scenario? At the end of 2 years, the tenant says, I don't qualify. I've not been very good with my credit. I can't buy the house. I guess that's a worst case scenario. What happens there?
Well, there's a couple of things that can happen. Naturally, they're probably improving their credit, so you might have another look at their credit, sit down with the mortgage broker and say, well, how long do you think it's going to be until this person can do it if they do this and this? The mortgage broker might say, well, it's going to take another 9 months. And so you might go back to your tenant and say, well, it's going to take you another 9 months. Then you can buy it. Here's the price at the end of 9 months. Would you like to stay on? They basically have two options. They can continue and then buy it in 9 months. They can just continue renting at the price you've set, or they can just walk from the deal and you have to put a new tenant.
And how often? I mean, I think in lease-to-owns that I've done, I mean, certainly not to the caliber of you, we're always very cautious because, as an investor, you want to make sure you've got an exit strategy and you can't control other people's poor spending habits and so on. And I think we've had a couple, maybe just 2 scenarios where people have walked from a deal at the end of the day, and I mean, it's really not good for everybody. But your system, you do so much homework up front. You must have an incredibly low tenant turnover.
Last year we had 2 people. One was in the first 3 months and they lost 2 jobs, and obviously weren't able to pay the rent. So we got them out, and within the next month we actually had a new tenant in there paying higher rent and had a higher buyout price at the end. So it actually increased our return. Then the other case, they were on a 3-year deal, and 2.5 years into the 3-year deal, they decided to get divorced. So they didn't want the house anymore. They didn't want to purchase it. So we went back to the investor and said, basically, we'll put a new tenant in there for you. And he just said, you know what, I'm divesting my portfolio right now. So he actually sold it for more than their buyout price was going to be in 6 months' time.
Wow.
He actually made a little bit more money.
Now, when a renter actually takes a lease to own, they typically put an option payment or a deposit forward, and what I always say to people is you pay an exaggerated monthly lease price, and a portion of that monthly lease goes towards the deposit at the end of the term. What happens in the scenario where, for example, in that scenario, 2.5 years in, they get divorced and they leave? What happens to their option deposit